Hello everyone, it's Alan. I wanted to make a video about the issue of male privilege because this is a topic that a lot of trans guys discuss on YouTube, and I've also read at least one or two articles or blogs about it by trans guys, and it is an important subject because male privilege obviously really does exist in the world. We live in a patriarchal world for the most part, in most places. So, yeah, so I'll talk about it. Um, so, okay, it's sort of complex for me. I'm going to try my best to explain it. So, to kind of sum up some of my main ideas here, I think that male privilege really does exist. It's a real thing, and it should not be like that. Men should not have extra privileges over women or people who are not part of the gender binary. Um, and another point, I have experienced some male privilege as a trans man who passes pretty much all the time. Um, However, I have not experienced as much male privilege, or there are some aspects of male privilege that I have not experienced personally. And another main idea here is that I did not really personally experience some of the typical, like, injustices that people who are read as female might face because I never really had the appearance of a typical traditional feminine woman. So that leads me to another one of my main ideas here, which is that for me, the privilege that I experience now seems to me in my mind not just male privilege, but rather it feels to me like cisgender privilege. Clearly, I'm not cisgender, but people think that I am if I haven't told them that I'm trans. So, when I'm comparing what I experienced in my past versus now, it's not like, oh, in the past I had female lack of privilege and now I have male privilege. It doesn't feel that way to me. What it feels like is before I had lack of privilege because I looked queer, and now I have more privilege because I look cisgender. So I kind of think of it as cisgender privilege, although it is male privilege, because clearly it's not like people think that I'm a cisgender woman. Okay, so let me see if I can give some examples of these things. Um, so let me start with the past so you know what I'm comparing with. So, some things that I've heard or observed that people who are read as typical women experience are things like getting catcalled, getting whistled at as they walk down on the street, getting hit on, maybe inappropriately, um, getting sexually harassed, those kinds of things. Uh, I never, don't think I ever really experienced any of that. I was never catcalled because I always looked either butch and queer or just really nerdy and unattractive in terms of the standards for what would you call it, traditional stereotypical women, or I looked really outdoorsy, or I might have kind of looked like a bit of a hippie, like I had like sort of like kind of short hair, and there was a period of time when I wore Birkenstocks. I would typically, like before I was professional, I would just wear t-shirts and like hiking shorts So, yeah. So I don't have the experience of being catcalled to compare anything with. And um, I never dated men ever, not even once. So I don't have any of those types of experiences. Um, and I never. I was always sort of a loner, I guess. I've always been introverted and I really enjoy and need time to myself. I don't know. I'm just like introspective and uh, nerdy, sort of shy. I have my own individual goals, my own things that I want and like to do. I don't know. I've never really been into partying that much, or at least I wasn't in high school. So I was never in the position of hanging out with a big group of like typical, stereotypical young people, really. So I didn't have the like high school young adult experiences that a lot of people had. So that plays into my experience as well. So I wasn't around popular kids in high school. So what am I trying to say here? I guess this is sort of along the lines of what I was saying about not being catcalled, not dating. I just don't really have that sort of category of experiences, nor did I ever experience frequently hanging out with like bro, dude types of guys. I definitely don't do that now. So I've heard a lot of trans guys say, oh, now that people read me as a guy, these guys that I'm around say all these horrible things about women and they say like really off color, insulting things about women. I have not experienced that, and I'm not sure if that's an issue of my age because I'm almost 34. I'm not hanging out with like 20-year-olds, or if it's that an issue of my career because I'm a professor, so it could be a class issue. Um, or maybe it's just that I'm nerdy and outdoorsy, something like that. Anyway, okay. So I have so many things going on in my mind. I'm trying to make this coherent. Okay, so where should I go next? Um, okay, I need to say this quick word that before transition, as I said, I pretty much always appeared as what people would call a tomboy, but I hate that word. To me, that's been like a slur. Don't use that. I do not use that word, but that's how people would view me. Um, Nerdy, etc., etc. So I did get made fun of in school, kind of throughout school up until high school. I got made fun of or bullied by girls, boys. Not not like extreme bullying, but enough to make things feel yucky. So I viewed that, well, so many different people get bullied, even if they have sort of a typical, stereotypical, traditional, approved look about them. But I did tend to get made fun of for things having to do with my gender. Um, like, I was always really athletic and really good at athletic things, so in high school, boys would kind of rag on me for that, probably because I made them feel threatened. And, like, I actually never shaved my legs. So in junior high and high school, I would sometimes get comments from people once in a while, sort of putting me down for not shaving my legs. So that was hard. So all of this just goes to show that I felt that I had a lack of privilege because I was sort of queer in some ways, a number of ways. Um, okay, So, maybe I should talk about what I've experienced since transitioning. Well, oh no, another big thing from before transition, using public restrooms. Obviously, that was a huge lack of privilege and a huge point of stress because I did not look like a traditional cisgender woman. I looked like a butch woman, or a large majority of the time, people didn't really think that I was a butch woman. They thought that I was a guy. So I had a lot of like problems from, I'm using air quotes like way too much, from looking queer. So compared to that, I feel like now, having transitioned, it's interesting to say that in the past tense, but that's how I feel that I want to say that. Having transitioned, um, I'm read as male all of the time, as far as I can tell. So, that comes with privileges. For example, I can use public men's restrooms, and I've never had any problem with that. Never had anybody say anything to me. So that's a privilege. Now, I it's like I kind of don't really want to call that a male privilege because women who have a traditional feminine appearance can use public women's restrooms without people saying mean things to them. So that's a cisgender privilege. A privilege of not having a queer or trans appearance. So that's why I kind of want to call this cisgender privilege. Again, not cisgender. People think that I'm cisgender. Okay. Bathrooms. What else? So some other things along those lines. So before transitioning, when I had a female name, when so it would often be awkward when I would meet people who had heard my name, but I hadn't seen them before. For example, if I was selling or buying something on Craigslist, they would know my first name, but then when I would see the person, I was always worried, like, oh, are they gonna like look at me like what? Who are you? You're not the type of person I thought that I was gonna be seeing. I never really had any bad experiences with that, thankfully. Another example is like at work. If somebody higher up at a college where I worked knew my name like through emails, and then I went to meet them, have a meeting with them or something, I was always worried like were they gonna go like, what? Like that's you? Hmm, that's odd. Not that I would think that they would say that, but that they might have a facial expression that might seem like that. So now having an appearance that matches up with my name in an obvious, straightforward way, I don't have any of those stress moments in those with those particular issues. So I think that's a privilege of appearing cisgender. And well, also a similar type of privilege before transition, I was for an extremely short period of time, like a month, I worked for a private tutoring company, and I only ever tutored this one girl, like, I forget if it was two or three times. So, with this company, the tutors went to the student's house. And that made me really nervous because at that point in my life, I really looked like a butch woman, obviously, like wearing men's clothes and stuff. Um, so that made me really nervous. Even the second or third times that I went to the student's house, like I was nervous about what the student would think, but more I was worried about what the parents would think or how they would treat me. So that's why I never. I mean, nothing really bad happened with that. Well, they didn't. They did kind of fire me. This family did say no, we want a different tutor, but that might have been because I was bringing in like radical feminist content. um, but I was just nervous about it, so I never considered working as a private tutor after that. But now, in theory, I would consider being a private tutor and going to a student's house because it's just privilege, privilege of appearing to be cisgender. And I don't think parents would have any qualms about my appearance. So, again, that's a privilege. Shouldn't be a privilege. People shouldn't be discriminated against for their appearance, but people do. Um, let's see. So, um, how about some things about just like male privilege? Okay, so now, obviously, I don't shave my legs and I don't stress about it at all. It's totally acceptable for a guy. So that I view as male privilege. And sort of a silly thing. I feel like I can sort of play or run around like if I go to the park. I can just kind of run around, kick a ball around, and I feel like I would not look unusual. Whereas, I don't know, if you saw a woman, like an adult woman at a park, just kind of running around, like jumping on stuff, kicking a soccer ball by herself, I mean, that might look a little unusual, which again, as with all of this stuff, it shouldn't be, but maybe people would think that. Um, and well, this might be more of a cisgender, well, no, I guess also a cisgender male privilege thing. If I wanted to, I could politely try to hit on women, in an appropriate situation, like at a bar or something. And if I were to do that politely, really tried this. I haven't really tried this, but like I've tried a little bit, like a small amount of times. I've tried just striking up a conversation with a woman in an appropriate setting, and I haven't had problems with that. And it's sort of acceptable if you're polite because that's heterosexual. So you're not going to get discriminated against for being heterosexual. So that's a privilege, and it eliminates some stress for me for sure. Although, of course, then there's the stressful issue of what if I were to actually get something going with a woman, like dating, if I met her not through online dating, so she didn't know right from the get go that I was trans, then, of course, that would be really stressful, thinking, like, ooh, if she knew that I was trans, she might reject me. Haven't experienced that yet, haven't really been dating, but, of course, that's really stressful to think about. Um, Other things. One little example. It's so easy for me to get my hair cut. It's easy to go to a barber shop. I appear to fit right in. The barbers are nice to me. They chat with me like a buddy. Um, and I can get the haircut I want, which was harder or more stressful before as a butch woman because it's like you sort of have to ask to get like a man's haircut, and that's just feels uncomfortable for me. It feels stressful. Um, a lot of guys treat me like a buddy, just strangers that I end up talking to. Like, there's this older guy at the gym who just started chatting with me about working out or about backpacking, and he was really nice and treated me like a buddy. I'm repeating myself here, but that happens a lot, and that did not happen before. And something that I mentioned to you guys a long time ago, when I rented the studio apartment that I used to live in like a year or two ago, there was an open house. I got a look at the studio apartment. There was a woman and a man who were renting it out, and I was outside. The man was talking to me outside. He was like, "Yeah, I'll put in a good word for you, because guys are good tenants because they don't complain about stuff too much. They don't take long showers." It's like such a crazy thing to say. Um, but I did. They did choose me to rent the apartment out of a lot of people that were at this open house. So I think that was probably male privilege, which makes me feel that that's unjust for women. Um, let's see. Oh my god, this is so long. Will they even let me post over 20 minutes? I think so. Okay, let me wrap this up. Let's see, things I haven't mentioned yet. Oh, yeah, one important thing. Now I feel that I would have a bit more comfort with doing trips by myself, like road trips to states where I'd be passing through, like Utah or the South. Not that I have any plans to go to the South, but if I were to be there, I would probably feel much more comfortable than I would have as a butch woman, that's for sure. So that's male privilege, also definitely cisgender privilege for sure. But speaking of traveling, um, well, so I also feel a bit more safe backpacking or hiking by myself. I didn't really feel unsafe before, partly because I have a black belt in karate. Not that that can always fix every violent situation, but I always felt confident for the most part. But peeing outdoors, like peeing in the woods, that is more stressful because before it's like, oh, I sort of appeared to be a woman. I had a woman's voice, so if I was peeing and some random hiker came by and kind of caught me, and I got, and then if I spoke, they'd go like, oh, that's a woman, yeah, whatever. Um, but now it's like I look like a guy, so if they see me like squatting to pee in the woods, that would be weird. So I am extra careful to not be seen by anybody when I'm peeing outdoors. Yeah, I mean, I could try to use a stand to pee device. I don't really want to mess with that. It's complicated. I'm just not that into it. Um, and oh my god, this is so long. And there's so many things related to work that I haven't even touched on, like things that I've heard other people say, like, oh, people don't interrupt them. People take them more seriously. People laugh at their jokes more, etc., etc. I guess I can kind of wrap that up by saying I haven't experienced any differences in those ways. Um, Part of that might be the environment where I work, because I'm a professor. I work at colleges, so um, and I work in an English department. So those people, especially in California, I think tend to be, for the most part, more open minded, more likely to be feminist than people in other professions. So that's probably part of it. Women also tend to be the majority where I've worked, so I'm sure that plays into it too. So women are respected as far as I can tell, as far as I've observed. I haven't seen women being like put down at my work in ways that seem sexist. Sometimes I can be oblivious though, just in general in life, so who knows what I'm missing, but that's my perception. Um, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's like a guys club at my work. And then, of course, oh my god, another thing to mention. Race plays into this as well, obviously, because if I were not white, the whole, like, traveling situation, work situation, all of those things would probably be somewhat different, or they might be different. So clearly, a lot of my privilege is based on race. So I want to acknowledge that. And then there's class. I'm like, I have, would you call professor a white collar job? Probably. I mean, it's not a blue collar job. So people tend to be, how do I want to put this? Education often makes people more open minded. So I'm thankful that I'm in that kind of environment. Anyway, oh my god, this is like the longest video I've ever made. Okay, I'm gonna stop. So I'd be interested to hear your experiences, your observations, your thoughts. So comment if you have anything to share. And thank you for watching. Bye.